I've read the comic books, and I don't know that I was ready either for this. So you want to see this. What's up, my know-it-alls? The newest episode of Invincible dropped, and so here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Those of you who are playing at home, by the way, no, don't check your dials, don't adjust your sets. I need to apologize humbly to the Know-It-All Nation. I lost track of the schedule. I don't know what happened. I think somewhere in the context of several different things, I just lost track completely and ended up not recording last week. An episode, the second, I watched it. But I think at the time I was doing another review also, and so somewhere everything just got jumbled up. So I apologize. Please forgive me. It was a bridge episode, and a bridge episode leads us to this episode here. This episode's not bad at all. It actually is kind of an interesting setup for this whole thing. And of course it ends on a cliffhanger ending, so you're like, what? You don't want to miss a word of it, so let's get into it. Mark's a college man. Literally, his mom drops him off, voiced by Sandra Oh, and Mark, of course, by Stephen Ewan. And so they have this really interesting little malicious moment where they talk and they're sort of like, well, I'm so sorry to see you go, this and that. You can tell she doesn't want to see him go so fast. And of course, him going amidst all this is really not good. But he promises to come visit and have dinner on Sunday and whatnot. And when he goes, and she have this interesting moment.
And don't do drugs.
Would they even work on me?
You do not need to find out.
Comment below if you think Invincible is susceptible to drugs and alcohol. I don't know about you, but I think he might be. Just saying. Not sure if he has a superhuman metabolism or not, but because it seems like he definitely can eat and he can definitely drink. So we'll see what happens. He goes into college, and you see Debbie, she gets on the phone, and she calls that card. Remember the card from the Red Speedster's wife?
Hi. Sorry.
Hi. I got your card from my friend Olga. My name is Debbie.
Oh, no last names, Debbie. But Olga told me about you. I've been expecting your call.
They set up an appointment, and she's going to go visit someone and see something. We don't know what all that's about. It'll all be revealed in just a moment. Meanwhile, Mark and William are bunking together for college, and William's sort of giving him the lay of the land. Mark puts up a poster of his favorite superhero, which is Seance Dog. It's literally Doctor Strange if he was a dog. Which is really funny because Robert Kirkman originally pitched a detective. He's kind of a supernaturally detective dog. I don't think he was Seance Dog. I think it was something else. They probably couldn't get the rights to use Seance Dog in this. But it was interesting to say the least. And so they had to replace him with that. But he's putting this poster up. William's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, the whole thing with, college life and whatnot. And so literally Mark is like, well, by comparison, you'll look like a champ. And sure enough, William's side of the room is beautiful and gleaming and looks gorgeous, and Mark's side of the room looks like a horrific mess. Anyway, and so William begins to explain to him sort of how the college life's going to work, and he says, okay, I'm going to put if you see a sock on the door, if you see a sock, don't come a knocking.
Sorry, children.
And so Mark turns around, he looks around, he notices a college, and he's like, oh, well, college life, whatever. And he goes to throw away his box of toys, only to realize that Seance Dog is the toy he wants to keep, and he comes back inside. There's a sock on the door. So Mark's like,
Who has sex on the first day of college?
So he goes to stay with his girlfriend. While staying with his girlfriend, they proceed to realize that, hey man, they're in college, they can do what they want. College kid's gonna college kid. What ends up happening is a narrator shows up. We have no clue where this narrator came from. None. They haven't had a narrator to this point, yet somehow magically we have a narrator now, and he proceeds to tell us how we're not going to stay and watch what's going down there, which I'm glad for, because it got really awkward, and this is, after all, a family channel. And so we proceed to go into space and follow the adventures of Alan the Alien. Alan's back. Yo, bro. He's back. But what we do is we get a brief origin story for him, and you get to see his entire journey up to this point in the series. And it's actually, so this is already animation, so I didn't understand why they had to do it in this weird staccato, like stuttery, almost like it's a slideshow, a parallax slideshow. I'm watching this going, I don't know what this is. Why is it? I mean, I know what it is. I've read the comic books, which, by the way, you should totally pick up. I have a link in the description below to where you can grab the omnibus. And you may be like me. When I got done with season 1, I was like, well, I need to know the rest of this entire story. And that's exactly what the omnibus does. It tells you the whole story. At this point, Alan the alien was genetically engineered to face eventually and to defend the fight against the Viltrumites. He comes from a planet called like Una One or something, or whatever. And it's all one-eyed people. And he was the only survivor of this particular group of experiments. But even then, he went off to fight and ended up losing. He couldn't even face one Viltrumite. But luckily, the leader, Thaddeus, voiced by Transformers Peter Cullen, gotta love that, accepts him in and to this galactic coalition, and he is now the person who goes from planet to planet, making sure they can defend themselves, seeing if anyone is strong enough. He's the guy who found Mark, remember, with the one eye. So he reports back about Mark, specifically that he found him, and this guy is a Viltrumite who wants to face against the Viltrumite enemies, and he explains the whole situation that Mark explained to him after 2 episodes ago, at the end of the first episode. Then we find out an interesting bit of information. They were in negotiations with this one planet, only to find out that at this planet, the planet's like was attacked by the Viltrumites, and everyone else in the system has decided they don't want to participate. They're like, we're going to pull out. It begs the question. Thaddeus calls on Alan afterwards and says, clearly we have a mole in the system, and we need to find them, because Optimus Prime is going to Optimus Prime. And so Alan agrees to help, and he's like, yeah, of course. It was Seth Rogen and his bit, Seth Rogen-y. And so sure enough, he's going to help try to track down who the mole is. We get to meet him and his girlfriend. And then you get this interesting moment where you find out that Alan is, it's a little awkward because Alan is apparently knocking boots with his alien hottie.
Sorry, children.
And so the announcer is awfully awkward because he's like, oh, well, they're going to do this. Okay, we left Mark and this, not this. And so we get to watch the cat with 2 buttholes. Yes, those are words I never imagined were going to come out of my mouth. A little bit later, Alan and his girlfriend are having a meal at this, like, I don't know, diner at the end of the universe. Who knows? And he gets yanked out of his booth by a Viltrumite. The Viltrumites are there. They're like, tell us more about the mark, this and that. And he's like, how in the world do you know? And he decides he's going to take it on the chin. A little bit later, you see him in a med bay of some sort, and Thaddeus comes in and he says he apologizes and unplugs him. Dun, dun, dun! I know, right? It's like, okay. I mean, I know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. If you want to know more, buy the comic. But otherwise, or whatever. We come back to Earth, and what you find out is Debbie is going to grief counseling. That's what the phone number was. It's a super secret counseling group for spouses of superheroes. And while she's at this group, she meets a bunch of nice people and they get to talk. She doesn't say much. She's kind of quiet, but at the very end, she gets invited out to a drink. The guy she gets invited out to a drink with, he's the wife of the Green Haze. That gal, the one superhero chick who looked like she was wearing a green suit, who Omni-Man killed. And so Debbie's got to come to terms with that and what that means. And she's really having a problem with that. And I understand why, and I see where she's coming from. So Debbie, immediately realizing that she was invited out to a drink afterwards with him, and so she tries to sneak out of the bar, and he interrupts her, and she's like, I don't know, this whole thing, I don't know, I'm sorry, and she divulges that Omni-Man was her husband. And she's looking for someone who understands to understand. But this guy's pretty peeved. He's upset. He's like, well, you should have known. And he tells you shouldn't come back because it's not a safe space for us anymore with you there. Because her husband rather, is not gone. Like, he's not dead. He's left, which means he could come back, which puts all of them in danger. I see where he's coming from. I just have a hard time with how they got there. And I'm just like, God, dude, like, can she find no peace anywhere? Yeah, it's rough. Her entire situation, I feel for, and it's definitely rough. So then Mark, there's a knock at the door, and it's Sean's dog.
Mark Grayson, I need your help.
Who are you?
Quiet as I, Seance Dog.
Yeah, the superhero on the poster, the little toy, it's Sean's dog. And Mark's like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. And he drags the guy out, and he almost kills the guy, and the guy transforms into this blue bug guy. And he tells Mark this big sob story about needing help and his people and billions of people are going to die. So Mark makes the call and he says, okay, fine, I'm going to come help. And he talks to Cecil. Cecil doesn't want him to go, but he's like, no, I have to do this myself. And he disobeys Cecil's order. Cecil's not happy. He tells his girlfriend he's leaving, the whole 9 yards. He gets on the thing. He's 6 days later. They arrive on their world. And there's nothing seemingly wrong. And when Mark calls him out on it, the bug's like, oh, sorry, it must be a bit of dementia. We age faster than you do. He's like, but our king, our emperor will explain everything. All hail Emperor. That's right. Emperor Omni-Man. Dun, dun, dun. I know. There you go. Now you know. And if knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What is the know-it-all index for me for this episode? I'm going to give this was a really decent continuation of last week's bridge episode. They're still setting us up. Also, for those of you who are familiar with the storyline, they have clearly fast-forwarded a little bit. Not by a whole lot, but it's definitely a little tighter than they got here quicker than I thought they would. To be honest, I thought we'd get to this moment a little bit later because I was expecting the Angstrom Levy storyline is much bigger at this stage in the books. But either way, it's working out really great. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I, for one, am going to give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. It's not bad. It isn't because in any way, shape, or form. It's just it's another part of the setup to get to the next thing. Love the episode. Would love to hear your thoughts about it yourself. Comment below. Let me know. Were you shocked with how they got here? I know I was. But yeah, man, we'll talk very soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.